Alright, so Record of Ragnarok chapter 105, and if you guys have already checked out my spoiler video, you know that this fight concludes this chapter. So we're going to break down how the fight ends, what happens, all that, so stay tuned. Before that though, if you haven't already, subscribe, drop a like on this video so you're more likely to be recommended to the channel in the future, and share it with a friend who may be interested in the Record of Ragnarok content. Also, shout out to the members who continue to support the channel. There's some new members only content over there, so if you want to check that out, I appreciate it. Now let's get into it. Not many people expected the end to be this soon, but alas, we are here. We started the chapter off with Jack the Ripper, and he's gonna tell us a tale. The narration at the beginning says, "The gentleman calmly begins his tale." The title of the chapter is 7.49. Jack sips his tea and says it truly was a devilish plot. For that Sir Loki to be using a clone from the very beginning, I dare say that even I hadn't noticed it at all. You say? Even I couldn't tell with these eyes of mine? He chuckles a little bit and says, had it been only a copy in appearance only, then my eyes would have never been deceived. But that clone was created with his Vedrung technique. That was a copy that contained even the color of the original. So obviously the copy that is his full copy has his full capabilities and abilities. It still had the same color. But it's interesting that Jack didn't pick up on, Loki within that tree, still having a weird color coming off that tree at the very least, but I guess he wouldn't be looking for it. He was also surprised by the Hercules clone, all that shit, pissed off by it. What a terrifying technique, he says. Even I was helpless against it. However, what truly shook my heart to its core was what happened after. Schemes stacked upon schemes, and the intersecting of love and resolve. Even as I think back on it now, my hairs stand on end. Yes, those 7.49 seconds became the stuff of legends. That's why it's called 7.49. The final interaction between Loki and Zemo happens within 7.49 seconds. Perhaps that exact interweaving of humanity and God is the highest form of art. So we get to see the stage set, obviously. We have the two Loki clones we saw at the end of last chapter behind Zemo. We have the Hercules clone that Loki's inside, fading away and revealing his real body. Then we have this bird in the sky. I want to give a shout out to this guy that put this in the comments. This guy thought that Loki had a clone within this bird. That ends up being true. We'll get to it in a second. We see the two clones rushing down Zemo, but Zemo is not turning around for those two clones. He keeps the Hercules clone within his sights. We now cut to Loki, who's thinking to himself, you bought it, so much for being death. Only you could have hit the vitals so accurately. Only because it's you will my trick come to completion. The trick Loki had devised to kill Zemo was as follows. After his Vedrung was killed and everybody was certain that Loki was dead, Loki's first move was to clad himself within the body of a Hercules copy. He then launched an attack. However, with a surprise attack, a sniper like Zemo would certainly still pierce his vitals in one shot without any delay. However, whether it was the heart or the brain, Loki's vitals were not in the same place as Hercules. So they are indeed going down the route of, well, Loki is smaller than Hercules, so his vitals are in a different spot. It is a little bit weird, but, I think a lot of people expected this explanation. Loki also knew that if the bullet was off by even millimeters, it would spell death for him. This trick was only possible because of the faith Loki had in Zemo's skills. So a little recap there, just basically shows us how it all went down. But that's not all. There was yet another fake. At the same time Loki created Hercules' body for himself, he released his haze underground to be on call in a place where Zemo couldn't detect them. These, of course, are the other two clones that pop up behind him. As the two copies closed in on Zemo, near certain of their imminent victory, Zemo would turn about and fire once again. And it would be in that moment that the real Loki, still hidden within Hercules' body, would fly out and finish it off in one blow. That's Loki's plan, and it actually shows a panel of Loki finishing off Zemo. That, of course, is not reality because this plan fails. Loki firmly believed that this fierce battle would give birth to the greatest trick of his life. Loki then says, I'll admit it, you're the strongest I've ever fought up until now. But, and here we get the reveal that there was another clone. It was the bird. So again, shout out to that guy, but we did all figure that he had at least one more clone up his sleeve. Now he's using his secondary ability here to be able to see through the bird's eyes. So he has like a clear picture of the whole thing. He has the aerial view of what's happening. So he knows exactly when Zemo's going to turn around. This is a pretty nice detail, actually. He says, now you're mine. I won't be the one to die here. It's you. Now turn around. Turn around. Zemo starts reloading, but he does not turn around. As I said, he continues to stare down Loki. Loki says, what the? Why is he still aiming at me? Ares from the crowd says, that damn human, he's gonna shoot Hercules' corpse once again. Didn't he notice that Loki's behind him? And Hermes stays silent. Loki's thinking to himself, did he notice it? Did he notice that I'm the real one? How? How could he tell in this situation? What did I miss? Zemo says Hyma, which translates to pancreas, Reaper's vow, and prepares to finish off Loki. Now sacrifices pancreas here. He says the words, I will never mistake the pain of taking a life. I like that quote. He's getting ready to pull the trigger, and Loki's desperate at this point. He's like, shit, I gotta come up with a plan here. And he's like, this monster. So the bird starts swooping down at Zemo, and at the last second, Loki teleports into the bird. This may have been the best option from the start, but he teleports into the bird, and now he's gonna try to attack Zemo from the air. As he did this, he said, of course, Zemo's a monster, but I can go even further. This is really cool. Everybody in the crowd is looking up at Loki in awe, and I like this detail a lot. This is the first time we actually see the full iteration of the weapon we saw Loki use in the garden, the scythe blade with the chain, so it gets him extra range. It comes out of his palm, and he screams the word die as he launches the chained scythe blade down at Zemo from the air. Zemo, though, recognizes this, turns around abruptly. We really don't get to see how he pinpoints this, but it may just simply because Loki screamed die, which is stupid, because obviously you don't want to like draw attention to yourself when you're trying to sneak attack. But regardless, Zemo turned, shot right through the scythe blade, or right next to it, and the name of this technique with this pancreas is Afterglow of the Heavens. Shoots right by it, and it goes straight through Loki's skull, pierces his skull. At this moment, Loki thinks to himself, Hilda, that time you smiled at me, and every time since then, I really was so happy. Thank you. I have always wanted to tell you, Hilda, that I love you. Now, throughout this period, it was panning back and forth between Hilda and Loki, and it was showing a Hilda that didn't seem all too happy about what was going on. She seemed to be very on edge, and also, depending on how you interpret it, struggling with what she's watching. Of course, you see the shot piercing Loki's head. You see him basically just accepting his fate when he saw that Zemo turned. And a small detail that I do like to an extent is the fact that the scythe blade does reach Zemo. It does damage him, so it's not as if Loki didn't get one hit on Zemo. He at least got this one scratch on him. And it looks like it may have taken his ear, but it definitely slices his face a bit. I think that the shot might have knocked it off course if you believe that it hit it. But regardless, Loki lost focus in the moment or whatever the case, or maybe, as he's getting shot, it just moved the trajectory of it. But for whatever reason, the scythe blade only clips Zemo, and we get this epic shot of Loki being flatlined. Shot goes, like I said, straight through his brain, straight through his head. One shot, one kill, finishes off Loki. 7.49 seconds. The crowd is all reacting, usual reaction shot montage. First time throughout this entire fight, we're actually seeing Odin and Thor. It looks like Thor is unhappy. Odin doesn't even look like he's bothered in the slightest. This kind of annoys me a little bit because I wish that we would have got more shots of these two specifically reacting. I know that Thor doesn't really talk much and neither does Odin, but their face and body language can tell us 1,000 words. So I wish that throughout this fight, we would have gotten more of these two, but we didn't. So, that's a little unfortunate. We then see the scythe blade hitting Zemo, basically, got rid of his hood and hat. So we can see his hair now, still has his mask on. He takes a knee, the wind is whistling behind him, cool shots. The narrator says, on that day, Zemo, the greatest sniper in all of human history, had his kill count renew. As Loki fades into the crystals, fades away, Zemo waited to confirm it happened, and then he basically falls to the ground face first. But he doesn't pass out, he gets off that last word, 543, so his kill count was up by 1. So his kill count was renewed along with the pain that pierced his heart, the pain of killing another. Heimdall screams out Ragnarok round 11. The winner is humanity's greatest sniper, Zemo Heya. And he stuttered when he said the word Ragnarok, because obviously he's probably shaking a little bit as well. He's a Norse god. While he makes this proclamation, we actually see that Hilda was watching on, and a tear does stream down her face. So as many predicted, the sinister smile from Hilda was nowhere in sight. A little bit odd, but I mean, it makes sense considering the battlefield that they were fighting under was so vast that it really wouldn't make sense for Hilda to like be seen by Loki in this moment, smiling. But she is crying, so it does imply that she did care for Loki despite her feelings toward what he potentially did. We still haven't even got confirmation she knows absolutely that he did the crime against Siegfried, but I think, you know, there's subtext that we can assume she does. It would be a bit interesting if next chapter we find out that this is actually a bait and switch and this is a tear for Siegfried, or like a tear of joy that Loki's finally dead and she's finally like avenged what happened to Siegfried and she's actually happy about it. We'll see if that's the case, not sure. As the clown fades away, the hearts of everyone watching are in disarray. Ragnarok round 11, Loki versus Zemo, match duration 8 minutes and 43 seconds, deciding technique, sniping against the gods, Ukon Vasara, winner, Zemo, hey ho. And that concludes the chapter, that concludes the fight. Did you guys all enjoy this fight? Let me know in the comments below. Is Zemo the guy that you think deserved the win? Is it who you wanted to win? Personally, for me, I thought that there was narrative behind Loki winning. It interested me more to see Loki win simply because I want to see an interaction between him and Buddha to pay off what happened in the garden. I want to see an interaction between him and Jack the Ripper down the line. Two schemers that have both had their moments watching the other and giving the other praise. And Jack took exception to the fact that he made a Hercules clone. Okita and Loki have a plot line you could explore. There was a lot of ways you can go down this road, and it all could have culminated with the reveal to everybody that Loki is the one that framed Siegfried. We really didn't get to see much of Thor, Odin, and Loki together. I wanted Loki to win, being honest about that, but humanity now has 6 wins. 1 win away from absolution. Who's gonna be next? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys all in the preview prediction video. Peace.